Hello everybody, it's Lillevik here, and I've been thinking the last couple of days, especially after the book I read last week. I call it the M. Night Shyamalan hellscape. That was Hekla's Children. And I started thinking about twists, story twists, and sort of breaking expectations of the reader. And especially this book got me thinking about it, because it was such a... If you haven't read Hekla's Children and you want to read it, please be aware that I'm definitely going to break a couple of I'm going to spoil a couple of plot points. There are a few conventions, especially in fantasy, science fiction, horror, the sort of speculative fiction, as they call it. I find that phrase for some of the most beautiful fiction that we have as human beings to be incredibly... It's a derisive term for some of the best fiction we have, some of the most thoughtful fiction that we have. And as of late, I've noticed that a lot of published authors, and I'm not talking about my favorites, start using sort of genre-breaking twists. For instance, in Hekla's Children, it's built up to be this fantasy or folklore-based horror or thriller, and that's fine. It's a first couple of 200 pages follows that. Not always to a T, and sometimes there are some sort of postmodern talking points that glistens through, that either shows the editor or the author's agenda. I'm not sure which one, because you can never fucking tell anymore. But what struck me about it was that, like, in this during this book, around the 200-page mark, the main character, which is this former teacher, now mountaineer guide / instructor, he starts being chased by the police, because they think he's done something awful, and up until that point they think he's killed like a bunch of hippies in like a commune, because he got possessed by this spirit and this demon called an afwar. And up until that point, everything was sort of made sense in the world that the author had created. But then he goes off the deep end. He he starts to to break the rules of his own universe by suddenly introducing these groups of people. Sorry, there was someone running past me. This group of people who haven't been mentioned early in the books, in the book, and haven't been introduced in any sort of way apart from some pseudo reasoning, I would gather, that they were mentioned by proxy in the prologue. And I wonder if people are getting fed up with it, because and some of the reasons are quite clear. When you're a reader, when you read something, especially a story, you have certain expectations, and it's good to sometimes get those expectations not broken but bent, if you get my drift. So, for instance, 1984, if you expect the hero to sort of not succumb to the pressures of the interrogator and sort of keep on telling the truth as he sees it, that wouldn't make the point then the point that George Orwell was trying to make wouldn't be true. Damn it, this gimbal, I'm trying to get used to it. Then it wouldn't be true. It wouldn't. The point that Orwell was trying to make with that twist, or with that bending of expectations, was basically that you need to stand up to this shit earlier than what the main character. Sorry, I can't remember his name right now because my head is in completely different ways. I think that my friend Civilian Sky is right that I should really start scripting these things, but this is more of a rambling thing, and I'm out walking. It's kind of hard carrying a script with me. But there's a difference between changing the expectations of your readership and sort of surprising your readership and breaking expectations. And I think that the lines need to be clearer between the two. No, but the idea of sort of bending the expectations or surprising the reader, it's not the same as what the author of Hekla's Children did. And by the way, the title is so fucking misleading as well. That's one of the things I really, really despise, is that I think there's 2 or 3 places in the book where the reasoning for the title is given. That's another thing that I need to talk about on a later date. But I just don't get it. I get it. I understand it. I understand why they're doing it. And I understand their reasoning. I understand their motivation. It's basically just them showing, oh, look how clever I am. And as a writer, and I am a writer, I guess I could call myself an author, considering I'm working on my second book, but I'm more of a writer than I'm an author at the moment. You need to follow certain conventions. You need to structure your book so that your readers can be surprised in a way that they expected, if that makes any sense. It's one of those situations where I think that it's kind of hard to really explain, but something about the way that sorry, framing issue again. There was something about the way that title was, or that book structured, that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm a fan of both horror, folklore, mystery, whatever you want to call it. I love it. Even if he'd split those two books and written two stories on different levels in some way, I would have really enjoyed it, because the second half is kind of like this spiritual exploration, what's the meaning of everything kind of deal, and I do enjoy those books as well. It was just the way that it was done. And another point before I quit, I mentioned this in my review. I think I mentioned in my review that the character turns gay without any reason. I mean, I don't know how that breaks Chekhov's gun, but it does. It's one of those instances where if you're going down that road, at least have your fucking reasoning be sound. Okay? Have some sort of hint before that. Some sort of conflicted way. The way that they do it is basically he becomes a slave after being confronted by one of the kids that disappeared. It's really fucking conflated. The entire book is conflated, but he gets thrown into slavery. And there's this other male slave that all of a sudden he wakes up because the other male slave is basically jerking him off. Which is fine if you're going to write that kind of character. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have an issue with characters being gay or homosexual sexual acts being portrayed in books. It's fine. It's actually good for people to read that kind of shit. But have the reasoning be sound. Have the reasoning be just. I think I have a problem with James Brogdon not knowing what he wanted to do, and I think it's an issue among a lot of authors, because I have seen several other books written in that way, where it's sort of, I'm going to show how clever I am. I'm going to show everybody that I can be M. Night Shyamalan too. Well, you're not. And it's not a good thing to be M. Night Shyamalan. Anyways, that's it for me. I've been your host. I kind of gather. This has been Jason Lillevik signing off. Please like, subscribe, and comment on this video if you enjoyed it.